There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, and Cinta is sick,
Yes.
so it's just us.
And I wrote the minute, so what'd you think?
Lovely, good job, killed it. I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
And I'll second that.
All right, bear with me while I pull this up. Okay. Wow, okay, so, pull this agenda up, so we can get going. All right.
The way it's printed.
So I keep it on my computer. All right, so ordinance 960 amended, we went through, we have a second reading tonight. Everything seems, again, we made a change to one sentence, Dennis said it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, easy, boom, done. Number 3. Resolution 3660, event applications, large and small. Tonight it will be in action. We removed the fee schedules from the resolution, and they will be included on Resolution 3430 amended, now specifically for the adoption of the event applications. Thank you, Brian, for getting that over. So that all looks good to me.
Will you look on, 3660 and see if we pulled off that whereas?
We did, yeah.
Okay, whereas.
That has been removed.
Okay, good.
That was really like the only changes.
It was the only changes that I had noted.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was that? I'm sorry.
3660, removing the nonprofit in kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has been removed.
So those
we had talked about, and I don't know if this is the right place to put this in or not, which would be to, make, Pride Park non-reservable.
Right.
So, I mean, because this is the event ordinance, so would this be the correct place to talk about that? And, yeah.
Would it always be non-reservable or only when there's a competing event?
Well, that's what you need to discuss, but it's the only green space downtown. And people could still do things there, they just wouldn't be able to reserve it for like a whole half day or all day.
Right.
They couldn't have just, they're the only ones that can use it type thing. They wouldn't be able to, you know, my main concern is that $100 a day is really cheap real estate downtown.
Yep.
In Saturdays in the summertime, you could have any vendor coming in and asking to reserve that and setting up shop there. I mean,
No,
there's nothing that we say that can't happen.
The last one, I put a condition on it, that the front benches remain open.
Okay.
And I
I mean,
think,
that was, and he was totally fine with that. He was like,
Okay.
yeah, the whole time we have people come in, sit down, sit at the benches,
Okay.
sit at the tables. They left that open. I said, that's the condition. I said, you're gonna get called on it if I find out that
Yeah.
Okay.
it's not gonna be treated that way. This is the first time that Pride Park has really been used, and it's just convenient for them to take some storage racks out there.
Absolutely. No, I 100%, I understand that.
And it could go into different, you know, people wanting to do the same thing,
Yeah, I mean,
you
you
know,
can't,
for a day, but that also, if we're gonna take it off the books of no reservation, that includes the people that have the MOU. I mean, they don't get to have it 3 days a year if nobody else can. So we just gotta stay consistent through the whole thing.
okay. And I guess to me, that's the conversation, you know, I'm just bringing it up now because this is where we want to have that discussion.
so to me, with how this resolution is written and of how our event applications take place, they can either be approved or denied by the city at the whim of the city. So it can be, you know, sorry, it has been identified that we need this public space throughout the summer months, throughout the winter months, as a place to sit, have a bench, because that was one thing identified even in those master plan meetings, is the fact that we want to maximize our usage or maximize our public space downtown and making it walkable, but also making it where you can rest.
Yeah.
So I think it's not necessarily that it has to be addressed in this resolution specifically.
Okay.
I think what that should be done is it should be addressed with Parks Board and their ambassador can make the recommendation, and with working with MOUs and those types of things, what conditions they want to see on that.
Okay.
So that's my personal belief on that. But as it's written now, we have the ability to say, no, we need to
But-
utilize this for the public.
But do we, because it kind of has to be consistent across the
Our
board.
consistency is the
Like,
important
you can't
part.
just say, oh, you can't, I mean, I really appreciate Brian putting a condition on it, that they can't utilize the front spaces so that people can set, you know, but
And-
might not be always one.
In Summerfest,
Yeah.
Summerfest, when it was down there,
Yep,
at one bench, they had face painting. I mean,
Yeah.
so all different events are used in the entire park throughout the year.
they are.
So it's either, this is a no-touchy zone, or
Mhm.
we accommodate. I mean, it's not like someone's gonna throw, 100-person wedding at the park.
No,
It's gonna be small events,
Maybe
and that's where, with us being able to put conditions on, I think we can
Okay.
control it, like,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah, this
Me-
small thing, if you wanna have a little gathering, that's great. Make sure that there's seating available.
it's a public park.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's more just the, not having it be exclusive use for any one person, so if you're putting those conditions on it, people can still sit down in the shade of a bench and relax. You're
Yeah,
not gonna get kicked out because you're gonna say, I have this park reserved, you can't be here. We don't want that, I guess, so that's.
Yeah, and
yeah.
that goes with a lot of parks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even Lions Park, you do the gazebo area, that's the only area you get.
right,
It doesn't expand onto the rest of the park. That's why we're
Right.
trying to be real specific on where and how many people.
And couldn't we write it that, it's not reservable by anybody but the MOU holder?
I don't think we could do that for all of them, if we
No,
want
for
to.
that one.
But specifically for that one, that's where I'm trying to figure out where that lives.
well, there,
Then I'm gonna come in and I wanna do an MOU for Pride Park when this one expires. And I'll take care of Pride Park, but then I get to have my events at Pride Park.
mhm.
Well, we can accept or not accept that MOU.
My thought is I'm not necessarily opposed to people utilizing the park as long as there's reasonable conditions.
Yeah, yeah, and I understand, yeah, I'm, as long as we do have reasonable conditions, it just was,
It was unfortunate.
yeah, it was unfortunate, like during the car show, and I realized their application was in before the car show application. But, in July, the whole month of July, we are so busy, we're so packed, it's so hot. And that's where people stop to rest. I mean, it gets very high utilization from
And that's
our
where
visitors.
the car show, maybe put Pride Park in it.
And maybe next
Yeah.
year,
That we wanna be able to maybe set something up. We wanna make sure that the people here have it, so the
Mhm.
car show can,
Maybe that should be included.
I mean, that's,
but, the Fourth of July would be another event. I mean, it's just, any of those weekends in July,
and
it's,
last year, this last summer, I actually went in and with Dave, and we blocked out some busy weekends. Like,
yeah,
basically, the city reserved them for us, for the public.
Okay.
So these weekends are blocked out.
Man, I like that approach better.
I
Where-
do too. I mean, I do like that. I just worry, like, when Brian's not there in that
Right.
position, and we have a different mayor, but I guess we can address that at that time. Whatever council is there can address that.
And
at
again,
that
I think
time.
that could be
Me too.
just something that comes from the Parks Board specifically, where it's just like, again, we've had issues with other exclusive use, and it might just be that there will be a clause in the applications at some point where how exclusive is exclusive? Like, what is that definition? What is
Right.
that condition?
Yeah, and exclusive is, like I said, it can be pretty exclusive to smaller areas, like, yeah,
Right,
you're more than
like
welcome
the
to do it.
gazebo or,
It doesn't have to
You
be the
know,
whole
you can
park.
put your racks out, kind of in the walk area up front, but leave the back shade open.
Right.
Or if you wanted to take some stuff, hey, it's a nice Wednesday,
yeah,
I wanna take some racks down there, yeah, absolutely, you can use it, but,
yeah.
leave this open, leave it open for people to come. And for a lot of those types of deals, you're wanting people to come in anyway.
You are, yeah.
If they're browsing, I mean, it's,
So here's a question I have. for when you are going through these applications, do you have a criteria set that you're looking through? Like as a position description type deal, or is this just Brian being smart?
No, I just look at every one of them and just make sure they're falling within the regulations of what we're doing, and if they are, you know, there's really no reason to say no.
Okay.
And that's the way it should be.
I
Yeah.
just tweaked
Yeah.
it because
Yeah.
a lot of them come in like, well, what exactly do you want? What exactly are you looking for? Because they were pretty broad, so let's get more detailed so we know. I mean, 99.9% of them, there's gonna be no reason to tell them no.
Yeah.
You know, use it. This
Yep.
is what it's for, and we have the scheduling process, so we can help accommodate. And a lot of them go into, well, here's Public Works number if you need candles, if you know, everything's kind of up to them to get seating, all that put together, if they need to close something. You guys are responsible for getting the candles out, you know, we're not gonna really cater to you, but, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
everyone's different, but they're all pretty simple to just say yes.
Yeah, and I think more so, it's just like, what would cause the city, like, I feel like there should be a criteria for the calendar coordination of, okay, when is it appropriate that we actually block this out? Like, what is our definition for that? What is the protocol from the city side? And again, to me, that seems more of a systematic, like, again, almost like a position description and training piece
Yeah.
versus a regulation, or,
So that would fall more under, you know, if we're talking about what would we, for city events, if we know we have a city event coming up, 4th of July, big
Mhm.
parade,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
blocking it out.
yeah.
Yeah, 10,000 people in town.
We're not gonna allow you to set anything up over the 4th of July.
Right.
Christmas stroll, we're not gonna let you set up for that. I mean, there's certain times and activities, and so what we need to do is just tie that into kind of a city event, that we want this to remain open for this. Pride Park's probably gonna be one of the few that have that.
Mhm.
Lions Park really, I can't see a reason why the city's gonna say, well, we wanna shut down Lions Park to any reservation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just using your best judgment.
Yeah, and
You know.
it'll get more consistent, like, as far as what dates do we want?
Right.
And when an event comes in, if there's something, like car show up, say, hey, we want Pride Park in this, we've got this street, let's include Pride Park, then we know when we do that
Yeah.
reservation.
Or
It
even if
includes-
there's a big event downtown where you realize it's bringing in traffic, it might just.
And I don't think, I don't think it's ever that, the car show would need Pride Park, we don't set up down there. It's just the fact that there's so many, so much pedestrian traffic
Yeah.
that day that, and then, I mean, it gets very,
July.
and it's hot, yeah, and so, and they're older people, and so they need to sit down, and they want shade.
Right,
and-
so I
And
think-
that's where, on your side of things, the event coordinator, that's where,
Yeah,
if you put it in there, then we're gonna give it to you, even if that's your intent, is just to make sure that
okay,
everybody down here for the car show stays open. I mean, we had a lot of tight scheduling on a lot of events,
we did, and I understand,
because things come in first. I mean,
yeah,
I had a wedding planned at the gazebo before the fun run gave their stuff. So it's okay, you guys are done at 11, I got a wedding at 1, how's this gonna work?
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, I don't wanna tell the fun run, so it was just a conversation,
yeah.
just so you guys know, there's a way, they said, we'll have everything cleaned up, and there was, will you tell the wedding party there's gonna be orange paint on the ground? I talked to the wedding people, they're like, oh, we're fine, we're just down to have a good time, don't worry about it, and
Yeah,
I never heard any complaints or anything. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of tight scheduling, like, you're
Yeah.
leaving at 11, they're coming in at 1.
Yep.
And it worked.
Yeah,
that's good, but we
and-
never had this opportunity to actually do this before, you know, with the smaller events and actually reserving parks. So this is this is really your first year of actually doing this. So
And honestly,
there's gonna be some
there are
stuff.
events that we know are going to be happening. Like, we know that, the fun run's always gonna be
Labor Day
the
weekend.
Saturday before Labor Day. We always know that, whether they put it in or not. We always know when the 4th of July parades are, we always know when the car show and Harley. So we have an idea of those events, 4 events for sure.
And the Christmas stroll.
And the Christmas stroll. So there are events that we have every year, whether they've got the paperwork in or not, that I would be careful about putting anything in those slots. You might just put a little notation, waiting for event app, because it will come.
And that's where the event coordinators could be, you know, on their end. I wouldn't put it all on the city side to say,
No,
oh, we have to make sure that these days are,
Yeah.
we gotta put notes in just, in, you know, it comes, because we know it's gonna come, well, what if it doesn't?
Yeah,
Right.
well,
I mean,
it's
I'm-
like the wedding.
I wouldn't put it on the city side, but the event coordinators, if they know 6 months in advance that we're doing this,
For a year in
make a
advance.
phone call. We can put a little reservation note in for it. I did it a lot before someone would call and be like, okay, I'm gonna put you in that day, even though I don't have your paperwork.
Yeah.
I know it's coming, it's on its way,
right.
but now we have the slot kind of reserved, so we can get through this. If it falls through, I erase your day.
Am I imagining something that, I thought we had it in the ordinance that if it was a recurring event, that they got first priority for that date.
I don't remember that
I
at
don't
all.
remember seeing anything
No.
like that.
Because, you know, there's certain events, like if someone wants to do camping up at the rodeo grounds on the 4th of July weekend, and we don't have an application in for the 4th of July, you know, and they're gonna have a race, and they're gonna take up all the camping up there. I'm like, there's certain things that, I agree with Sandy, I think that
And that's
we need
where
to
whoever-
have something in there for, because it's not a lot, but it's
Yeah.
just these big recurring events
Yeah,
that we
and
need
that's
to
for
accommodate.
whoever's doing it, like, if I got a phone call, said, hey, I want this park, I want Rodeo Park, whatever it's called up there,
Yeah,
4th of July weekend, I would probably just say, I wouldn't even bother sending in your application, because you're not gonna get it.
You have to look at one of the
I
other
mean,
parts.
you have to, yeah.
yeah,
Do we have other areas that will work for you? Let's look at that, but
right.
this is one of the biggest events
Well,
every
and the
year.
Beartooth Rally, you know, it's
Yeah, I
another
mean,
one, the
there's
camping up there.
multiple,
And one way that we,
events, but still, you know, that's where if we start getting multiple great big events that wanna come, and, well, that's figured out.
Yeah,
It hasn't happened yet, we're not there, but what happens if we got Beartooth Rally and they don't have anything, but we've got an event just as big that says, hey, we wanna come to Red Lodge. Okay, how are we gonna do this? I mean, is it gonna be a race? Are we going to give precedence to the ones that are every year? Like, yeah, we can very easily, but
yeah,
so a thought on that is how this is written. Groups that have an established MOU with the city of Red Lodge are exempt from fees and requirements. The guidelines in the MOU take precedence over this resolution.
Right.
So if Beartooth Rodeo, Beartooth Rally had an MOU, like, but I mean, that might be one of those solutions to where it's like, we have certain organizations.
so we
that
have
work with-
to, it wouldn't be an MOU because they have to give like-kind service, they have to be giving the city something. So you can't just do it.
Tax money.
I know.
Take care of it. Like
Yeah, they have to
Right,
take care
no,
of
for
it.
sure.
So
Take care of it
they-
year-round.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you couldn't do an MOU, you would have to add something in there, recurring events, you know, something that happens every year will get first priority for approval over a new event.
or other option here
and that,
is, we reach out to those 5 events
Yeah,
and just say, hey, would you like me to put you in for the next 5 years?
yeah,
And then now they're locked in, and then we have that phone call when someone else, like, if we haven't gotten the application yet, we have the phone call, like, hey, just got someone who is wanting to utilize this park, this space for this date, just want to confirm with you.
and so a lot of that came on with, you know, the downtown street.
mhm,
It was kind of a, well, I want this street for my bar, no, I want it for my bar, no, I want it
Right.
for my bar, and so it was a race to get in.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only time we've really had a conflict, and it was, okay, you were in first, so then the other one moved across the street.
Mhm.
and, I mean, it was,
right,
you know, Battle of the Bands, it was whatever.
yeah, the street dances during the,
And so, I mean, that's the only one that I know of that there's been, you know, any pushback as far as who's gonna get it, who wants what, but, I mean, the dates are you know, you can't put it in before this, and
right,
you want this, and realistically, they're easy enough that the big events, yeah, give us some time, make sure that we can get it out to department heads, look at it. But some of the small ones, I was doing same day.
I know,
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe the dates don't need to be in there, that if you want to give me something that says, hey, this is going to be a reoccurring, and we can do this summer and next summer, this summer and next summer, but it's a placeholder. When that comes, I still want this filled out, and I'll make sure that we're on the same plan, make sure we're still, is there alcohol, you know, still fill it out, but maybe there's some portion of those really big events that we can do, you know, a placeholder for the next year. So when that comes in, they already have it, and they can placehold another year, so that gives them a year looking out in advance, that, yeah, we're gonna do it another year, and it also gives, hey, this might be it, you know?
Yeah.
You know what happens to short-term rentals is, especially Beartooth Rally, when they stay at a place this year, they reserve it before they leave for the following year. Every time, because they already know it, and they just reserve it in advance.
Yep.
And maybe that's what we should be doing with these recurring events.
And that's something, I think the way that we wrote this, that's something we can add on to a large event deal without having to go through a whole
I don't-
discussion.
It's,
on it. We
yeah.
can, you know, hey, we're gonna add, is this gonna be recurring? Do you wanna look at a date for next summer?
Yeah,
If it is, okay, this is the date this year, this is the date I would like next year. Knowing that they still fill it out when
Yeah.
that comes.
absolutely,
Is
yeah.
this gonna be reoccurring? Do you wanna look? And it's gonna be very limited to the several.
large events.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's just it. I know when we were researching this, 2 years ago, and maybe it was Whitefish that put in there that, a recurring event would have first priority over a new event coming into, you know, up for application. And I think it just kind of, you know, it's a safeguard for that event, you know, so that someone doesn't come in and just decide that, you know, especially if they don't like the event, and they decide they're going to just reserve all the camping
Bump
up
it.
there, so that no one else can have it, and it's first come, first served, then, you know,
Yeah, I think it'd be easy to do like a year in advance.
yeah,
You could add that onto your event.
It'd be hard to, you know,
Yeah, I actually
have
like
an
that.
MOU with everybody that wants to have a large event.
yeah,
And still, there's a scheduling deal that comes in, that a lot of them, you know, if they're done in the morning, we can still have an evening, afternoon event at the same spot.
Like
So
you
there's-
did with the wedding.
yeah,
there's
absolutely. Like, it's
scheduling
like with
stuff
the fun run, you know,
Yeah.
every Saturday of Labor Day weekend, the fun run will happen there, you know, and you don't necessarily want someone coming in and,
But that would also help put it on the applicant,
yeah,
so that the city is not taking responsibility for trying to manage events. Like, well, I'm gonna assume this is coming, so I'm gonna block it out. I'm gonna assume this is coming, so I'm gonna block it out. I'm gonna assume, because all it
Right.
takes is one day change, or one weekend change, or hey, we're gonna move it up a week, or we're gonna push it back a week. I
It's
mean,
also a liability on the city if we make that assumption, because then now.
No, I wouldn't
Well, what I'm
necessarily,
saying
yeah.
is, yeah, like, you know, well, you assume that we're doing it this date, but we're actually doing it this weekend.
Yeah,
Shame
so-
on you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a communication thing,
Yeah.
and whether it's like in January, if we let all the events, if all the event organizers know that January 1st, they need to call and get on the you know,
On the calendar.
it's just, right now, the way the ordinance reads, they can't apply, what is it,
Too early.
too early.
Yeah,
270 calendar days.
So, you know, they all wait until, bam, that day, and then they apply so they can hold their spot, and, you know.
yeah.
I mean, I've already got the application for next year's Renaissance Fest.
Yeah,
Oh, good. They're coming back.
yeah.
Okay, so when should I be gone?
So, yeah,
Good.
yeah, I guess it's just to accommodate those big recurring events for those people that have put a lot of work and time and
But I think
like
if we
them
do,
to
if
it,
we
but
do something
not,
like that, that will put it on them to pick a date.
yeah, yeah,
Because the Renaissance is, I think it might be changing by a week.
really?
Yeah.
Is it the
Yeah.
second week of June instead of the first?
Yeah, I think it's a little different. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, there was an issue with the rodeo grounds, a dog show booked it.
Yeah.
See, there you go. I never
So
said,
they moved a week. I mean,
yeah,
But again,
but maybe it'll be
far
nicer weather
out.
for them too.
But
But,
that's the problem with the 270 days. I don't know why that we say that you can't reserve it until 270 days.
Because you don't want someone just come, I've honestly heard people say that didn't like a certain event, that if they could, they would just go in and reserve it ahead of time so they couldn't have it. So,
I
you
think,
know, and
I
pay
think
the
I'll put
$100
something
a
on
day.
there, I'll put something on there and I'll email it to you guys.
With the
Okay.
It just
recurring
shows,
event.
you know, what are the dates and times and where? Is this a reoccurring event? Would you like to put a placeholder for the next summer?
And that's
for
what
1
you
year
call
or
it,
Yeah.
is a placeholder.
And
Yeah.
then, so the rodeo, they can just fill it out, then they know, nope, I've already got it for next year, I've already got it.
I like that,
Rally,
Ryan,
they
I
can do
really,
this. They-
yeah.
And that
they
puts
need
it
to
on them to
confirm.
pick a date. So
Okay,
if they want this party this year, and they wanna look at next year, they need to get in their calendar and pick a date. So
okay,
that's the date that, now I have this year's, and I can go out to the next year and go ahead and just put a
Put a
note
soft
in there.
Yeah.
close. Put it-
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so then when we get there, next year I can scroll through and be like, oh,
You
we
might-
got this coming up, I don't have an application.
Yeah, you might put a note on that recurring event, you know, for next year, and, note your application needs to be in 270 days prior to the event.
Yeah.
So it only reserves it.
As early as 270 days prior.
Yeah, as the timeline's gonna stay. I mean, in the minimum timeline, you know, that's got something in there about
45 days.
45 days, yep.
unless
There's an
approved.
exception.
Yeah, unless approved. I mean,
Yeah,
like I
there's
said,
an
people were
exemption for
calling
that.
me the week of, a couple days before, for something small, we got nothing going on.
Yeah, well, and sometimes you don't know what the weather's gonna be like that far ahead, and you're kind of like, if you're planning your
And you still don't
September
know.
event, you're like, do I really wanna, you know, do this, or, you know, it's hard, I get it, you know, 10 days out, you can kind of know what the weather's gonna be like.
I'll put something in there for a reoccurring.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's gonna be in the application then?
Yep.
Okay, so then with that, we were supposed to be voting on approving the applications as written tonight, so I think we have to push that.
And that's okay, because Doug and Cynthia will both be gone
Oh,
tonight. We still have a quorum, but, you know, it'd be nice to have everybody at council there to approve so
Yep.
just, you know, to approve the application
okay. So we will make a note that we are gonna push that.
for the next
And
time.
which
Yep.
one is that? That's,
That's 3660. Yep. So 3430 amended is the fee schedule, and that is the lovely spreadsheet that Brian has sent us.
right.
Just adding those event fees to land use. And that now has one beautiful spreadsheet of fees that are all involved with the planning department. So instead of having multiple resolutions and multiple ordinances and all of that,
So nice to have it
just
all.
one streamlined fee schedule.
Make it easy.
Yep.
And if you ever wanna change your fee, you just have to change just that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay, good.
that is what 3430 is. That will be up for action tonight. Do we wanna push that because there's two people gone? Or do we feel pretty confident in thinking that's okay?
I think it's okay. That's not,
I think so, too.
Because it was, we
Yeah,
did discuss it last
We
week.
did discuss.
and no one
it.
had any
Yeah.
concerns, we didn't have any concerns about the application either, but we'll push it because we're gonna change it. You guys are
So
gonna
in the
change it.
fee schedule, I also changed the temporary use fee.
Mhm.
I know we've had discussion where I don't think we're there
It
yet.
doesn't
but-
matter what you change on that, we're just gonna, yeah. Right?
No, it matters if he changes something on that, you
Yeah,
know,
the
we're
temporary
approving it.
use,
Are we
because-
gonna have to keep amending it every time he changes one line item?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I already,
It's-
in my change, I already did it, so that's the other one that we've been talking about, the temporary use, where
Right.
rather than, if you're gonna be here for this many days, we want this much, if you're here for 3 months, we want this much, if it's here
Right.
for 6 months,
Yeah.
we want this one. It's a
Just-
$25 review fee and a $25 site.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which we did have those discussions early on, and I think everyone was at peace with that, so. End of the day, if that's
So just-
what you believe is taking you time, and,
It's changed on that resolution.
Okay.
The fee schedule too, so.
Yep. Perfect, so we're consistent.
Yeah, just so someone doesn't see that and be like, well, did we know that this was changed?
That's fair.
Full disclosure.
Appreciate you. Okay, then we have ordinance 911, second amended, camping on city-owned. We put the penalties back in,
Right?
because that's where they belong. We removed 14 days maximum on commercial space.
Well, we removed commercial completely.
Yeah, that whole section is gone.
Yeah.
Because we don't have
It's
anything
just
like it
saying
in
that
residential, so.
If you are on public right-of-way, camping is not.
Can't live there.
You can't park, you can't camp there.
Yeah.
You can't camp on public right-of-way unless it is unless you are doing an event, and that is the only exception to the rule currently.
And didn't we on, under overnight camping number 2, we removed the second sentence?
Bear with me while I pull it up.
You remove
Second sentence under overnight camping,
Yep.
yeah, that's the one that has the.
The fees for use will be set by fee schedule by resolution of the city.
Yeah.
So there's, in that fee schedule, there's one that says camping, but it says $0.
Yep.
Yeah, but
No, that
this
was,
this is the ordinance.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the line did say, the city may provide an exception for overnight camping for permitted events approved by the city.
Yep.
And then it also had,
Yep.
fees for use will be set by fee schedule by resolution of the city, and we removed that
Correct.
line.
yep.
It used to say it had to go before city council.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and so that and adding the penalties, and we should be good for vote tonight?
Yep. So that will be action tonight.
But with that camping being on that fee schedule at $0, if it comes, like, I think someone pointed out, well, what happens if this event becomes a hindrance? That if we're having to do stuff after they leave,
Yeah.
then we can say, okay, well, for this event, we're gonna charge you another $100 to allow this much camping,
Yeah.
which that will cover
Clean up.
a couple hours of public works to go up and,
Yep, it allows it to be an option down the road, but for now, we don't feel it necessary. Okay, so that's that. We cranked out a lot of good stuff. Number 6, resolution 3662, Northwestern Energy Utility Easement, and also resolution 3663, Beartooth Electric Utility Easement. These were things that, Dave was going to present. And with that, I believe it's the discussion we had last week to where it'll go through that leased land. I imagine he will speak to that this evening.
Yeah, and Beartooth Electric was at our last meeting, I'm sure
Yep.
that's where it was going to go,
Yep.
or where they're burying the line.
Yeah, big thing for me is I just want to see, plats and locations. That's my preference.
Was it in the packet that
well,
way?
there was,
Was it
there
in the
was a
packet?
map with
It
it.
was.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, it was in the packet.
It's on the packet.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I'm covering for Tony yet again.
Slacker.
Yeah, he's out of town for his birthday, so, for a full week, which doesn't put any strain on me at all.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay, so that is, do we have any further discussion that you guys have on that? Do we feel good about those easements?
Yeah, I didn't see any problem with them.
I don't either. So,
We need our utilities.
yeah, utilities are important.
I wish they were all buried, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
tired of the big hole in the backyard.
Yeah.
That's where you're at.
I know.
When you have to dig
It's
into
not
town,
cheap.
it's not very fun.
No. I've seen all the orange and blue lines all over. They're everywhere.
All right, so then next up on the docket, resolution of intent to evaluate land exchange. This was a discussion we did have last week in terms of exchanging land at the top of the hill to make a much larger, not much larger, but a larger footprint.
Taking the
workforce
acre
housing.
out of the middle of the.
Yeah,
of the
taking that
parcel.
weird chunk out of the middle.
Yeah.
And just exploring that. My only thing that I have thoughts on is I know that that homeowner has approached me specifically on a different land exchange where he wanted to give up a section of his land that connected down to 8th to continue the Rocky Fork Trail down. And I really like that as well. I think that it makes more sense to do workforce housing and have that chunk. But I also don't want this, and I want to just be really clear, that I don't want this to essentially blow the opportunity for possibly having that other land
Sure.
exchange. If the homeowner is not willing to do the chunk at the top, I do want to continue to explore the option of having the trail.
I think the trail one also involves some other landowners in the area that we're not keen on.
Sure, and I remember a brief discussion with him on that where it was their neighboring landowners that are utilizing city land, and they don't necessarily want a trail running through the land that they have been using, even though they don't own it. And based off the maps that I have seen, that is the case. So,
I would like to see one of those.
yeah, I'll show you those, I have those, so I can send those to you.
I think part of the problem is going to be when you get an appraisal of land that's on the hill versus commercial land on top of the hills, I think you're gonna run into an issue of value.
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
the city is supposed to get more value out of it.
out of any land.
So just
Yep.
because you're putting a trail on it isn't going to make it more valuable than the prime commercial land up on top of
If
it.
he's willing to do it, we should jump, because he's been, vacillating on that.
Mhm.
I think you'll find the same with the top piece and a little square in the middle too.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
top piece is level, it's usable, it's bigger.
Yeah.
We kind of looked at that, me and Dave. The top piece that the city owns right now,
Maybe you
it's a
could get,
very nice developable piece of property.
Useful.
I've also heard that it wasn't, like, you weren't able to develop on it because of a gas line that ran underneath?
Oh, there's an easement, there's a water line, there's a gas line, there's all that.
The water line, yeah.
A water line.
Yeah, I think there's a gas line that runs along Airport Road, but it might be in the road, but there's a water line way over on the edge of what the
On
old
the
road
edge.
used to be.
Okay.
That used to be the old road that went down.
Yep.
But if he
And-
built on that land, would it be skylining? Would it be visible from down in the valley?
No.
Okay,
No,
Yeah,
you're
it's part of
way
the
more than
setback.
45 feet from the rim,
okay.
and, I mean,
The setback from the rim are enough.
yeah, it wouldn't skyline any more than his house.
We
Yeah.
It's right on the-
we already have plenty, so we
Yeah,
don't need any more.
I wouldn't
It
worry
isn't
about
zoning
that.
against that.
Yeah.
Yep.
well, and maybe it's the case that you do both. Like, in order for
Yeah,
him to get
I
that
like
really
that.
nice piece of buildable land, he gives up the trail and the little chunk
I love that idea, that'd be
So
great.
That's where you find out the value.
value, yeah.
I mean,
Yep. We have two pieces that now equal a value that we can actually work with, I love that.
If
But
it comes
again,
out
I
that way.
think a trail coming down from there, because it already just naturally connects to that spot, coming right down by the Boys and Girls Club, the IGA, the tennis courts, like, that is ideal.
Spot.
and can it be a good trail that's built to last, not just, oh, we're gonna mow it, throw some gravel and watch it wash away?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I know that he's also been working with BRTA, and BRTA was willing to take over some ownership of that.
Send me that map, I'm curious where
Got
it exactly is gonna go.
Pull all that.
While you're doing that, I had an odd phone call today from Anner, who had a tour of the pea factory. Have you seen the inside of the pea
What?
factory?
Oh, I've been in there several times.
But I,
I want a tour.
yeah,
What are you trying to
everybody wants to tour it. It sounds like he's just done an absolutely stunning job, considering, you know, the foot deep of pigeon leavings that it was. And,
To go in there, God.
and Anner said, well, maybe the city council would like to tour it.
It's a
and
big
It
project.
could be arranged,
It's gonna ultimately end up with an elevator,
yeah.
there'll be a little cafe, there'll be a bookstore. It's gonna be all art gallery on the first and second floor, and then the third floor will be all business. For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be public business, but
and I'm not sure that it has anything to do with city at all. Has he talked to the URD or whatever it is, URD? Well,
Urban Renewal District.
No, the district has an agency or a group or whatever. Urban Renewal.
The board?
Yeah, I think there has
Committee.
been some conversation, but I'm not sure that the conversations would be beneficial to the city. Because, I mean, that money is to help with, parking,
Workforce housing.
infrastructure, stuff like that, to make stuff possible. I think it came up once that he's like, well, would that pay for my fire sprinklers?
That's what I heard.
And we're like, no, that's not
Not
what
only
it's
that, the
for.
fire
That's-
sprinklers are,
this is your project,
Yeah.
you decided to take it on, everything inside the building is on you. Now, the parking outside on that dirt road behind Dip Trip, hey, maybe some of it could be used to develop that, actually maybe pave that little road. I mean, I think that's what it's for.
that would be an appropriate use of it.
Yeah, I think that's what it's for, not for private individuals to benefit. I think it's a place
I
to
know
help
that
the general
currently
public as much as.
they're creating like criteria for what's supposed to be best and highest use of this fund.
Yeah,
And specifically, it's going to be community benefit, not private benefit.
well, there are, as we all know, that there are some buildings here in town that are historic, like the Theatorium, that we would like to get developed somehow, but luckily this guy has the
Well,
money
the
to
piece
buy
actually
it.
was, it's been here forever. I mean, it would be the same case as the Theatorium, as far as a building that needed to be, refurbished, and
Yeah.
that's been, it is a,
Didn't the city get a, grant for just that use?
no, the city didn't. Jen Battles, worked really hard to get the Paul Bryant grant, whatever it was, and she worked with Paul Sedin on it because of the Yodler. And, they worked really hard to get this grant because it was the only grant that could be used by private individuals who did not have to be a nonprofit. It just had to be on the historic registry, and they made it so that it had to be a business or or a nonprofit that had been, it's in the historic registry, but it was significantly damaged by the flood, of 2022. And then when they got it, the Community Foundation took it over and is the one that created the subgroup. And they had to open it up to every building that's on the historic registry or historic building for them to be able to apply for it too. So it was no longer, you had a direct loss from the flood. So like some of the, I think, some of the places are applying for new windows, any of those
Like
historic.
the Roman?
Yeah, and the Roman Theater is applying because there's a lot of work they want to do. So it ended up being opened up, and then they put a cap on it, so that you could only get like up to 150,000 of it or something like that. So you couldn't,
So it could be spread out.
so it could be spread out, so.
And there is money, I believe that the historic preservation, does help with grants and stuff
Yeah.
to protect these structures. But a lot of them choose not to, because the minute you get them involved,
You have a
then
lot
they
of
have a
rules.
stake.
Yep.
They do, and,
So you
and
can't put this window in, but you can put this window
exactly,
in.
yeah.
And so, that's why a lot of them do it. If you don't use any of the historic preservation aspect of it, you can virtually do whatever you want to the building.
right.
It's when you start using their help and their funds, that's when,
There's protocol that you have to
Right.
follow.
And I think they are going to be announcing who got what funding here shortly, is my understanding, that it will be announced. I think all the applications are in, and they're just reviewing them now to let people know who got what funding.
And did that go through the city or through the foundation?
It was through the Community Foundation.
Okay. All right, so back on, wow, we're just cruising along through.
15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes. Talk about planning board updates. I know you guys have been cranking away on the downtown master plan and the growth policy.
And I pulled up one, this one is from, I guess, the focus group, the 6 to 8 PM. Historic preservation got the most votes at 15, walkability at 14, public assets like pools, parks, all of that got 12. Mix of green spaces and retail was kind of interesting, and that got 10. And all the rest got 4, 3, none. And that's aesthetics, fit and compatibility, sidewalk, safety. Scale encourages interaction. Some of these
That
are
was
kind of,
smart. I really like that one, actually.
yeah. Flowers, beauty of the downtown, open and friendly atmosphere, unique owner-operated businesses. And then the ones that got ones was contiguous business area, vibrancy and liveliness only got 1.
And this is just from the evening session?
This is just the evening session.
So do you have someone who's doing a breakdown of
But
all of
it's
those
kind of
stuff?
hard because you got 4 little dots, and like, a lot of those were
They didn't give you
equally
a lot of
important
dots.
to me, so I had,
Yeah.
it was really hard to just say, oh, okay.
Now, the group from 10 to noon, number 1 was historical architecture and field. So again, historical is top of the list.
Mhm.
This
Including our
is the group
historically.
This is the one where the dark skies people were there. Be cognizant of light pollution, keep lights pointed down. Evening vibrancy, small independent storefronts, walkability, vitality, vibrant seasonal aesthetics, which flower beds, flags, holiday decor. And then public spaces is down to 4, public gathering spaces, which kind of seems to me the same, 4.
Yeah.
Safety is way down at 2. Cleanliness, 2.
I know, but like you say, you
Yeah,
only
things that
had,
are important, it's just,
yeah, I mean, they were all, especially like the public spaces, we desperately need a downtown public bathroom.
Well, we need to have a sign
My
saying
God.
that the Pollard is a public bathroom.
Are they though?
Yeah.
I'm like, have you asked them that?
It came up in the meeting, someone mentioned.
I know, but I think I
Yeah.
would check with the Pollard before I started advertising that they're a public bathroom. I mean, it's,
I've heard that years ago that
Yeah,
that was a
but
public.
I
yeah,
mean,
I've
they-
heard that and confirming that is 2 different things.
I know, because it's expensive to have your bathroom be a public bathroom. The amount of paper towels, the amount of soap, the amount of
Yeah.
toilet paper you go through. And yes, they have a commercial bathroom, handicap accessible in there. And they are very generous with people using it, but that's totally different than saying it's a public bathroom. So,
Yeah. I don't even know where we would find that.
you would have to ask, or you'd have to ask Eliza, because she,
It would be nice to know that it was designated by the city,
the city would have nothing to do with it.
not just the, well, the
If
city
there was
has
a
to do
deed
with,
restriction or at least something, but that's,
Which is
that's
like-
the
No.
situation.
ACE has a deed restriction.
Yeah.
Right.
But the city never, did not give them, did not give the Pollards the land to build the building on.
Yeah.
No,
So,
we
the
don't
city
know.
would have no
We
say
don't
in
know.
whether or not that's
We
a
have
public
no idea.
bathroom or not.
No, I mean,
And again, the top 3 at the 2 to 4 was walkability, high-density development, 0 lot lines, and historic character. So that,
And that was the business, that was supposed to be the business owners
Yeah.
at that one.
yes.
What, when
That
you
was
were there,
just-
were there a lot of business owners there, or was it?
It
I
was,
mean,
it was really well attended, I thought.
okay,
Yeah.
with business owners? Or
Yeah.
just-
there was a
okay.
good diversity of business owners, there was certainly
Okay.
some that weren't, and I thought that was interesting. But I
Well-
mean, also, you know, you show up when you show up. Like,
That's what
it
we
was-
told them.
I
They
think
can come
that
whenever
happened
they
a lot,
wanted
yeah.
to.
Yeah, because they had, the afternoon one was when Kevin Redstar had his grand opening too,
Yeah.
so that's for sure, that's for
That's
sure.
where the whole chamber of commerce,
Was.
chamber board, and
I know.
so that's
And,
a
and a
little
lot of
unfortunate
businesses
timing.
were open and and a lot of people are down to skeleton staffs already, so they had to work their business, so. I was hoping some people were able to call in on Zoom and at least listen to it.
Yeah, and I know that those were all recorded as well.
Yeah.
The morning, I think all the sessions were fairly well attended. It was interesting to hear just very not contradictory, but opposing views in different sessions. But
Mm.
like, for instance, one that I really liked from the second session was John Clayton's remark that we need to keep downtown businesses at, like, we need to have a variety of professional services still downtown, because that keeps locals downtown. like, for instance, accountant's office, dentist's office, those types of pieces, and I thought that was a really cool perspective that I hadn't really thought of before. Because generally when I think of downtown, I'm like, oh, no, it should be retail, it should be restaurants, it should be all these
Mhm.
things. But having that mix, I think that's what creates that friendly neighborly downtown, is you have locals that are walking those streets every day, it keeps it lively.
In another session, they said that they shouldn't be downtown.
Yeah.
And
They shouldn't have this
I felt both ways
service.
in the past, you know, I mean, I get it. When I worked at Beartooth Insurance, it was, I mean, Jack was actually planning on selling that building and moving to the north end of town because there's no parking. Customers could not find a parking space to come into the office,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and I think that's why it's
But
nice
then
to
he
have a
decided to
diversity.
retire instead, so, you know, and that went out the window.
So, done, done and done.
Yeah, so it's still there, I hope it's still there, but I could see where, you know, I love being downtown, but it was really hard for employees to find parking, you know, you ended up parking 2 blocks away, or if you lived
Yep.
close enough, you walked, but,
Yep.
And people that wanna come into your business.
yeah, and people that wanna come into your business when you're right in that 3-block center, it's very hard, and we got complaints all the time from customers, so.
But again, it's just a,
Debbie? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I think it's interesting, then that's why I think the diversity of it is important. And obviously, it's up to the businesses, you know, determination if they wanna do that or not. Like,
Yeah.
for some businesses, like, I'm gonna have one client in here at a time. I'm not gonna have a spot where I'm gonna have 30 people coming in and out, unless it is truly, I want foot traffic.
Mhm.
Like, so, again, I think about, like, the dance studios, that was a good, someone also said, like, mixing that up to where, and I don't know how in hell you would ever, like, somehow regulate it, but like, we should make it to where you can only have, like, family events at certain parts of town, and you have to spread it out like Disneyland. And it was an interesting concept, but I'm like, that is impossible to regulate,
I
and
know, like, what do you want us to do?
I'm like, I
Jack?
see where you're coming from, but we are
I know.
not Disneyland. We do not have the ability to have, like, main
do that.
attractions at opposite sides of town
I
going.
know.
But
I mean, we
again,
do with our zoning, we don't have a red light district, if that helps them out at all.
Right.
Like,
Probably
you know,
not.
like,
so I thought that was, again, just another interesting tidbit, but across the board, I think the things I heard the most, obviously, historical, preservation of buildings, and, you know, maintaining that facade. Then also charming, friendly, inviting downtown, which comes with the aesthetics, it comes with the flowers, it
Yeah.
has all of those aspects.
I just-
Walkability was a huge one
it
throughout
always
every
is.
conversation.
And I guess that was my kind of thing that I was kind of disappointed in, because it's always the same thing,
It
you
is
know.
always the same
Always the
thing.
same thing, so, and I really appreciated Dave's comment about, like, well, let's think outside the box. Yeah, we need more parking, what are we gonna do to make that happen? Do we make some side streets one-ways and you do angle parking there? You
And
know,
those
what-
conversations were happening.
Yeah, and so I just, and I hope that they kind of take in, you know, our engineers that are doing this report can kind of think outside the box when they hear those complaints that were raised. What
Right.
can we do? You know, do they have some solutions for us on how we could fix some of that? And then we
Yeah,
can
those
decide if they're doable.
Yeah.
We've done those traffic studies on Engle parking last time this came around.
Did you?
Yeah, Hauser, we said, okay, if this was one way,
Mhm.
would it work? No,
No?
I mean, it's,
Yeah, I just never knew the answer to those,
and,
you know?
and flat would be a tough one, because it's residential.
Yeah, you could, it would have to be these side streets where it is commercial, like,
But really, that's just.
from Broadway to Platt. I mean,
The
it would
discussion
have to
was the
be,
bump out. If you did a bump out, then you'd have angled parking, and it'd be a one-way street.
That wasn't,
Oh, no,
no,
we
that
did
was
all,
two different things. I mean, they do
There was
kind
a whole
of, they
study.
can
Yeah.
correlate, but it's
Well,
two
that's the way
different
it's
conversations.
designed.
No, the bump outs don't necessarily mean that you have to have angle parking.
no.
That's the way the engineers had.
Well, that may have been the way it was done, but
I was
that
gonna say
doesn't
that-
have to be.
It's not how that has to be. Like, I see plenty of bump outs to where it's just standard parking.
Yeah, it just means they can't park where they're not supposed to, because
Yeah.
there's a bump out there.
And it means that there's a safe platform where someone can actually be seen
Right.
without having to.
Whether it's painted or curbs, just so that, you know,
I know.
we could
So,
ship it
are you,
all
are
up.
you guys just about done?
We are.
Yeah. We can
just
do
have
that.
Use the next meeting.
Yeah,
But
I'll be curious to see what they come up with.
Yeah, that's me too, and I.
One thing I really wanna see, and this is outside of this meeting, but I really wanna I wanna make printed copies of the original revitalization plan available as like coffee table books.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
And
I
all we
think
have
it's-
online is the one copy that's written, that says
Right.
office copy.
And I think it'd be great to have like an actual printed